mention George. Circle back on the cornerbacks.
We will. Here we are live
Sorry about that.
for our 151st edition of Miami Hurricanes, live with Cam Underwood from State of the U. And we've got one addition to the U family. His name is Quan Lee. We will discuss him in just a second, and we will probably be sitting here in the next 4 to 6 weeks with droves more, and we will get into that in the next hour. Cam, how we doing tonight?
Doing good. Had a little early dinner. Having a good Michigan beer tonight. Bell's Two Hearted. Good old Michigan beer from Kalamazoo area. Otherwise, hanging out. So yeah, we were talking a little bit before we came on, but I know people saw it on social. It has like 300 something likes, which I did not expect, but I did officially get a promotion at the secret day job after quite a while looking for that. So that was official for paperwork. So my raise kicked in on Monday. Yesterday was my official first day in my new role. So very excited about that. So I put a little extra pep in my step. And then Miami got a commitment on the recruiting trail, which supported what I was talking about in last week's show. So, there was all that and, more. But otherwise, I'm pretty good.
So, number one, a public congratulations is in order.
Thank you.
Number two would be, what's the distinguishing quality of Michigan beer?
I don't think that there's a distinguishing quality, but, just supporting the home state. Just like people, if you get the Wynwood Brewery down here or Cigar City from Tampa, just like having the brews from your local places. So, as I was shopping for my dinner over at Fresh Market, you can put together your own 6-pack, and there was a couple of Bells still left in there. So I put those 2 in my 6-pack with a couple other things. So yeah, figured, I was off today from the secret day job, let's celebrate with a nice little dinner and a couple of adult beverages. Why not?
You guys know the deal. You ultimately produce the show. So leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics in the live chat, and I will pass them on to Cam, and I will have something to say depending on the topic. Quan Lee is a 3-star, and ironically out of Gainesville, and somebody that Cam and others have targeted once Isaiah Bond made a commitment elsewhere, and in that same town. And therefore, Quan Lee, speak to us about Quan Lee, and I will make this one comment. If we go solely by the recruiting rankings, that there will be a faction of people, and understandably so, that aren't going to be enamored based on the 86 next to the position rank.
Right. And that makes sense. Just because you want your team and, excuse me, for me and us, the Miami Hurricanes to recruit at the highest level possible. So you're thinking 86th at wide receiver, is not necessarily the highest. If I do some quick maths, that's like, if we go 3 wide, that is 18th or 19th string, give or take, in America. If you go 1, 2, 3 is your first string, 6 is your second string, so on and so forth. So not the highest rated guy, but he's 6 feet tall, like 175 pounds. He can add a little bit of weight. But he's an electric playmaker, man. He's fast. He plays bigger than his height because he's athletic. So he can play outside or inside. He's also dynamic in the kick return and punt return games. And then he also played defense at cornerback and played pretty well there as well. Now, we're looking at him on offense, obviously. 46 catches for 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns, or 47 catches, 1,003 yards and 12 touchdowns, I believe, are the exact statistics from last year. That's pretty good, and he's from Gainesville. So too was Clinton Portis. He went to Gainesville High and came down to Miami. Quan Lee's from Buckholz, but he's a guy who I believe is going to be seeing his ranking increase up towards the 4-star ranking level, just because of what he did on the field in the fall, also because of what he's going to do at any camp that he goes to, because, again, he's very physical. 7-on-7, he's just been a terror all spring long. He was just a monster. And that's going to continue into the summer months that he plays 7-on-7 as well. So I'm not really worried about it. Again, this is a guy with good enough height. You would like it if he were 6'2" or 6'3", but he's not. He's 6 feet tall. That's good enough. He's very fast, very polished as a receiver. He can get more polished. and diversify his route tree a little bit more. But the routes that he does run, he runs them really well. Obviously, to great success if you're talking about 1,000 divided by 40, so it's in the 20 plus yards per catch range. If I do quick math, because I do 1,003 divided by 47 is 21.3 yards per catch. That'll work. You know what I mean? So this is a guy who automatically improves your depth and talent in 3 phases. If you separate the return units into individual phases, right? So kick return, punt return, and then offense. And he does offense in multiple ways. So you can do sliding, you can do outside. So you can think of the jet sweep touch pass. You can think of reverse. You can think of the trick plays, all those kind of things. You have another speed guy who adds to this roster. And again, I think that he's being undervalued currently. And then it's going to change moving forward with his ranking because of what he's done on the field in multiple settings, camp, 7-on-7, and in the fall. So I'm very excited about getting Quan Lee. He's going to visit here in June 11th weekend, so a couple weekends hence from now and everything. He's the second commitment in this class to go along with Ja'Cory Brown. And again, I said last week, I believe it was when you asked me, or 2 weeks ago, when Miami only having one commitment might become an issue. And I said, by the July 4th week, because it's not a weekend, it's the week, but that time around the 4th of July, I need to see 4 commitments, 1 a week in June. So we have a total of 5 minimum. We're still in May and we already got 1. You know what I mean? Outside opens up on Tuesday, which is June the 1st. You got a ton of visitors on June 1st. You got another ton of visitors on June 2nd. And then you got official visits starting the weekend of the 4th. This is not the seismic James Williams surprise commit from last year, which was just like a random Tuesday night. He just dropped it. He didn't even say anything. He just dropped it with the graphic on the timeline and went about his business, and the whole recruiting world changed. This was not that. But a small step is still a step. And I think that this is a bigger step than most people think if you're only going by the rankings, because Quan Lee can play.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, talking Miami for the next hour. Appreciate everybody being here. Falcon X. I always forget to put on the ERX. Falconer X. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Appreciate that. And we've got a couple of questions coming in from Ray, who's concerned with jersey numbers. Do we know what jersey numbers have been handed out to the incoming freshmen?
They listed some of them. I thought I saw Romello Brinson and James Williams were both going to wear number 0. Leonard Taylor was trying to get the 56, but I'm not sure if he was going to get it on defense. It's open, so he should be able to, and it's not a retired number. I've seen him on social media, but in passing, so I haven't, gone down and memorized those numbers, but they have them. They're on the lockers, and the roster should be getting updated pretty soon on those guys.
I am trying to follow up on the name that's dropped by Ray Chan that we see on the screen right now about this defensive back from Chicago, and I am not coming up with anybody.
I believe that either 1, he's a fake recruit, or 2 is like a walk-on or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not like a premium name, not like an All-American from, Simeon High School or something like that. Like, I've heard this name. I think I've seen his Twitter profile before, but unless I'm way off, I believe that at best he's a walk-on. And again, I don't think the walk-on should be playing at Miami lest it's a blowout. Otherwise, something's gone horribly, terribly, fireably wrong. Yeah.
Now I'm coming up with him. We've got a player out of Ray is telling us Chicago. This says Birmingham, Michigan. I'm coming up with a cornerback by that name.
Birmingham Groves?
Birmingham, Michigan.
Yes. Wiley E. Groves. Wiley E. Groves High School.
Yes.
Oh, around the corner from my first piano teacher's house. Neil Eisenstein was his name, who looked exactly like Willy Wonka. And I was very, very young, my first piano lesson, and I wouldn't go in because if you don't know this, my favorite movie of all time. I know all the lines. I can sing all the songs. I can do all, like, trust me, I know all the trivia. It's my favorite movie of all time.
Still.
So, to this day. Oh my God, are you kidding me, bro? What? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Okay. Like, I've never seen the Johnny Depp because there's nothing that can replace the feeling that I had as a child. Well, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the pure imagination with that major seventh, come with me. I mean, it's like, you can't, bro. So I walk in, and Mr. Eisenstein looks like, and I was like, I like ran over to my mom. I was like, like it's Willy Wonka. Oh my God. I was like, this whole thing. Anyway, yeah, so that's he lived around the corner from Groves High School. Like, literally, I would drive up. It's called Cranbrook Road, which leads up to Cranbrook High School, which you all know is where I went. So it's Cranbrook Road and 14 Mile. Yeah, because it's south of Maple. I think it's right at the corner of 14. And I would turn on 14 and then go down to Mr. Eisenstein's house. And right at that corner of Cranbrook and 14 is Groves High School, where my cousin hit a regional winning home run over the oak tree in left field that still is orbiting some moon somewhere. He hopped on this fastball and oh my God. Anyways, but Groves High School, it is crazy to me that these schools have guys who now are being Power 5 recruits in football. You know what I mean? Like Groves, never that. West Bloomfield, never that. And you got guys going to Michigan and Penn State from there. KJ Osborne, not KJ Osborne. Hamler, the kid who went to Penn State.
Hamler, yeah,
is from West Bloomfield High School, which I'm like, it's crazy to me that it's even a conversation. That being said, I believe I stand on my statement of him being a walk-on, kind of, until I hear something else. Because, like, if he's like Michigan, Mr. Football, or he's like, because that school is like a couple miles down the road from like a Brother Rice, which is a traditional power in Michigan high school football. It's around the corner from the West Bloomfield school, like I was talking about, and they've grown as migratory patterns have changed and the demographics of that school has changed, gotten a little bit more melanated and things like that. That school has gotten a little bit more competitive and things like that. So, hey, maybe Groves, 21 years on from me graduating high school, has now changed where you have somebody who is like a Miami caliber recruit. I need to see it, but we'll see.
Yeah, based on the numbers here, he's nowhere close to being able to play at a place like Miami. So not to disparage the young man, he's an up-and-coming student athlete who wants to aspire to the next level and probably will based on these numbers somewhere, but not at a place like Miami as the 192nd rated cornerback in the country.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Because we've done stuff like that with guys locally and been like, oh, well, because everyone wants to say, a South Florida 3-star is like a 4-star, 5-star somewhere else. Well, some guys are just 3 stars, bro. And some guys do not overperform their ranking. And then you have them on the roster, and then they're not able to do the job, and then you see these things happen. So Mr. Muyoung from Birmingham Groves High School, which is crazy to me, I wish you the best somewhere else.
Sure. Mr. HD, this has been a comment or a question, I should say, that has been raised a few times. A lot of people out there are hung up on the number of commits that are going to be coming in the next, 6 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, people want to see recruiting move, and obviously you got, who was that in the chat the last week? There was like, not even UCF, but it was some team of the dregs of the earth. A non-competitive FBS team was ranked higher in the recruiting rankings than Miami because we only had one recruit, and I get it. People are going to say that, and then you get a little antsy because other teams are getting commitments and things like that. But, I'm going to trust this process with this coaching staff because openly, and I wrote about this already, they're changing the paradigm in recruiting because usually you have a bunch of early commitments, and obviously in the years past, you would see guys decommit. Fine. But even like last year and the year before, you got a bunch of commitments, you lock them in, you keep building, and the cherry on top is the quarterback. And that's how you build that class. So in terms of timing and positionally with the composition. This year, they completely flipped it up. They processed out the prior commitments, They didn't meet the new metrics or standards to being a commitment that Manny Diaz has put forward. And then you kick off the class with a quarterback who's going to be your Pied Piper, and you say, cool, everybody come with me now, as opposed to building everything like in 2018 recruiting class. We had everything set. We had Arthur Sikowski committed. Clearly, we need to process him out. We get Jaron Williams, who's committed to Kentucky at the time, and bring him in for the Notre Dame week official visit and say, look, we got all these dudes in this class. We need you to round it off. Boom. Again, we're completely changing the paradigm this year, so I'm going to give them a little bit of grace with that. But hopefully, we're starting to see the fruits of their labor. We've got Ja'Cory Brown, we have Quan Lee, and we start to hopefully get that momentum going and add more guys with that. Again, my minimum for commitments by the 4th of July week needs to be 5. That's 1 a week through the month of June. And we have already gotten 1 in May. So if we get 1 through June, we're already to 6, which would exceed that. I'm not necessarily looking to rush all the way there, but of the likely 19, 20 slots that we're going to use in this class from high school players, I want to just see positive movement. So again, if we're going to build from 2 now and say 1 a week through June, 6 to 10 is not unreasonable by the 4th of July or middle of July, if you want to put it that.
Quan Lee, according to Berge, has been a player that has played well against quality defensive backs. Of course, I don't know that. That's not necessarily anything that's out there. I don't know if that's been discussed or that. And the one thing that I would like to ask you, Cam, is that when these players get re-rated, re-ranked, I'm guessing that comes in certain intervals throughout the year. I would expect that there are reasons why those assessments are made and those reevaluations at certain times of the year. The one that would be obvious would be after a football season. Mm-hmm. And then maybe other times, 3 or 4 times during the year, that they re-rank and reevaluate everyone.
Yeah, that comes, you get spring evaluations, and then you get summer going into the season. And then, obviously if you're watched during the fall and things like that, those are like the 3 major times. But yeah, it's really, again, just more data. You know what I mean? Like the more times you see a kid, like, okay, I saw him last spring, but now I'm looking again and see him again, and things have changed. So there's the couple of times, the set times of the year, the 3 times that they update the rankings, but also in between those, if there's been additional evaluation happening, then things can you won't get a major reshuffling at that point, but you will get some minor alterations that you start seeing. But in terms of like who he's played against, Buckholz High School plays 7A football, which is the second highest classification in Florida. And you went up against some good teams: Oak Park Oakleaf, Live Oak Suwannee, Orange Park Fleming Island, Creekside. Played them twice, so regular season and playoff. Navarre and Niceville. So those are 7 games against pretty high quality 7A competition. He lost 2 of them as a team, but that's not crazy. So yeah, he's playing up against some very good competition there. And I left off the teams that they blew out 59-0 because they're inconsequential to the conversation. But over half of his high school schedule was played up against high quality 7A competition in Florida. So I believe that stands up to muster.
Is there any reason to believe, Cam, and I know you don't want this to take place in reality, but is Frank just poking the bear, just making comments here? What's he talking about concerning Florida being the fastest team in America in 2 years?
Well, he's talking about Isaiah Bond, for one, who's a track star, being the wide receiver commit. He's talking about what's the Humphrey kid, Isaiah, I believe his name is, out of Houston, Texas, who committed today as a cornerback to Florida, and he's a renowned track athlete also, who's sub 11, I believe, in the 100-meter dash. So those are 2 burners for sure. I don't know the rest of their team. I don't know the rest of their recruiting. I know that they brought in a bunch of, they brought in some offensive linemen for that they flipped from Miami. You know, they got a couple linebackers, that, you know, tight ends and things like that. But like they've intentionally added some pretty impressive speed in last year's class and this year's class. So I don't know that they're going to be the fastest team in America, but Florida is intentionally trying to increase the speed of their roster. And that's where that comes from, especially with those last two commitments. Might be a little bit hyperbolic to say that they're going to be the fastest. But simply in terms of adding speed to their roster, they're doing a good job. And I don't like it because I don't like them, but I will respect the work that's done.
D-Rock Irish. I have lived just below the 75-44 corridor in Florida for over 30 years. Wonder why the Hurricanes can't lock in those highly recruited players in the South Florida area.
Well, no, I mean, it's the state of Miami, from what Howard Schnellenberger said. You know, the I-4 corridor across to, you know, from the East Coast, I forget even where it touches, but where it touches the top of 75, of I-95 on the East Coast, it goes straight across Central Florida to the West Coast over Tampa-wise. And then from there down, because 75 continues all the way down to Miami and also goes all the way north to northern Michigan and to Canada is where that, or because it's not into Canada, but that road goes that way. But that's where, you know, Howard Schnellenberger legendarily said from there down needs to be the state of Miami. First of all, again, the proliferation of digital film. There's not going to be many guys who just get through the cracks anymore, which is what happened in the past. And everybody knows about thank you, Harold Clemens. Everybody knows that this is where you come to build championship rosters. I wrote about it 2 summers ago. I mean, it's like if you get the top players or top kind of players from South Florida, you're going to improve your roster automatically by default. So these teams are going to do that, and they're endeavoring to do that, and they're being successful. Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, you know, other teams, even if it's not the top end, excuse me, Jesus, there are more teams down here now recruiting, trying to get a crumb of South Florida commitments than ever. So it's tough because you can't take everybody, and you're not going to get everybody, you know. And at some point, you have to make a choice. You have to make a decision on which way you're going to go. So over there, but if you're talking about in D-Rock Irish, I believe his name was, from up top near the I-75, I-4, right? So you're talking about Tampa area. You're talking about going down through Lakeland. You're talking about Polk County, which is Gator County. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I completely discount any recruit from Lakeland. I don't care what school it is. Lakeland Senior High School, Kathleen, I don't care. You're not coming here. You're not. You know, and it's just like you talk about there are pipelines for Miami. The Lakeland area, Polk County is a pipeline away from Dade County. Those kids are going to go up, you know, Florida State, maybe Georgia, South Carolina. They're going somewhere else. You know what I mean? You get Palm Beach Gardens or Palm Beach Dwyer High School. Again, say their coach's name because it's funny to me, Jack Daniels. Their legendary coach who coached there for like 30-something years. Ain't never got a player from Dwyer. You know what I mean? Oh, well, we're not, against Miami. Look at the proof of the pudding, bro. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Like Johnny Dixon, you know, who was a kid who was pretty much everybody ticketed to Miami, State. You know what I mean? Like there's certain places that are just going to be hard to get. Seffner Armwood, you know what I mean? That's another school that's out there in the Tampa area. You know, when you had good guys at where did James Wilder go? Shoot. It Plant, HB Plant High School in downtown Tampa. Those guys usually, now we did get Robert Marv from Plant, but besides Robert Marv, we don't get many of those guys because it's just their culture is to go elsewhere. You know, it's been systematic for a long time. And that's why in some of those areas, so maybe right near to where D-Rock Irish lives, why Miami is struggling to get some of those guys is because it's been generation on generation on generation going elsewhere. You know what I mean? So there is some of that, and then also it's damn tough to recruit, especially in Florida, because everybody wants to come here. Everybody wants to get these guys and develop them and help improve their roster. So instead of fighting just against Florida and Florida State, and maybe every once in a while a South Carolina or a Georgia, like used to be, you're fighting against everybody. It'd be like that.
So besides the answer being it's in the water, I'm going to come up with 3 basic reasons why there's such great talent in Florida and South Florida in particular. These are the first 3 that I come up with, and I'm sure you'll be able to expand upon it exponentially. Number 1 would be there's been a population shift. So I got hooked on these videos that I found online, and the topics are all walks of life. I've seen pro football, I've seen baseball, I've seen internet sites, I've seen world population, I've seen babies' names, and they show you can go to this site, and there's a number of them. There's a bunch of copycats now because they're fascinating. They will show you the timeline of, let's say, the world population in various countries since 1800. And you see the way the population is shifted year by year, and you see these timelines move. Or you can look up, they have top recording artists by record sales by year, and you see it shift, and you see Elvis go crazy, and then you see the Beatles go crazy, and then you see Michael Jackson go crazy, and you see who, and you see, I was watching this with somebody the other day, and we were looking at baby names, what boys and girls have been named in the world since 1800. Anyway, I'm getting, where am I going? Oh, yeah. The one that I saw on state population saw where, of course, the Northeast early in the country's history was the only portion of the country and then dominated for a long time. And then you see different population shift, and then it's projected toward the future. And even the likes of, let's say, Georgia, that was not that long ago a pretty lowly populated state, will have more people in it very soon than New York State will. And Florida's already overtaken New York, whereas if we go back 25, 30 years, there was no competition in population between New York State because, of course, there's 18 million people just in New York City and Florida. So my number 1 point would be population shift is obviously the more people you have, the more chances that you have elite football players. Number 2 would be weather. When you can practice all year, when you can just be outside playing and you're not coming out of hibernation in early April to stretch out your muscles and get out there and run, then there's just a propensity to have better athletes or those people that have inherent athletic talent to be able to exercise that literally throughout the entire year. And then number 3 for me would be, once you collect all those elite athletes together and they compete against each other constantly, then that only makes them better, as opposed to the 3 great athletes in a county somewhere in New York State that are competing against guys that are not pushing them. Then they're generally only going to get so good based on competing against guys that they can go 70% against and blow away, versus the intense competition of what we would see when elite athletes are up against each other from the opposition and from their own team, just battling for position spots.
Yeah, and I think that those things ring true. Obviously the migratory patterns, I mean, there's still people moving down here to South Florida every day. So you have that. And yeah, the weather thing is big because you used to hear about that, especially with baseball. When I was at Cranbrook in high school, we used to take the second week of our spring break and come down to Homestead for spring training because we couldn't really be playing outside in Michigan at that time, in the year before the baseball season. So, I completely understand that. But yeah, all those things make sense for why there are. And then it's just, again, the more knowledge that there is, the better that training and development can be. So, you've got these kids who are doing more dynamic work in terms of their skill building, in terms of their, laying the athletic foundation when they're children to be able to support them moving forward. You have a bunch of multi-sport athletes, which I strongly support being a multi-sport athlete. just because you learn how to win, you learn how to move in different kind of ways. You talk about these offensive linemen who wrestled or played basketball, and their footwork or their balance and things like that. Why not have an offensive lineman who plays basketball and wrestles? If that's into their, interest, you know what I mean? But you have all those things. So, yeah, you're going to want to have those elite athletes. And then, like you're talking about, when you have more people, then you have more of a chance to find anything, whether it's just regular, straightforward intellect, book smarts, whether it's artistic, whether it's athletic, whether it's, height, which is, not a skill, but, you have more people, then you might have a more higher percent chance to find someone who's, above 6'6", if you're looking for that for whatever reason, you know what I mean? So having more people is a big key towards that and everything. And yeah, I mean, you just have, obviously, there's other conversations about gene pools and all kinds of things like that, but I don't want to bore people. But it's,
All right.
but it's but it's part of the conversation as well if you want to extend
Sure.
it out.
It is. I don't, and I am not one to speak to that because I have no idea, but it makes sense. And I would certainly entertain the conversation, but I would not be able to add to it myself, but it makes sense. All right, Phil B., Florida State fan, thank you so much for being here. Phil has lauded me a number of times today because we have just gone nuts today. We had our Oklahoma live show on the Oklahoma channel, Ohio State, Notre Dame on the main channel, and Miami now. So, Phil, thanks for being here.
Quick
All
question.
right.
How do you feel, just in 30 seconds?
Sure.
What's your take on the Oklahoma AD clapping back on Oklahoma, Nebraska being an 11 o'clock local kickoff?
I don't think it's necessary. Of course, it's not necessary. I don't even think it's appropriate from the standpoint that you're an institution that, in a football program that capitalizes on television. And that's an agreement that you took part in as an institution and as a conference to sign those agreements. And you understand what the deal is. And you have placed yourselves at the mercy, in this case, of the television networks determining when you play football. Those are the rules. That's what happens. Somebody's playing at noon and 11 a.m. local time every week. It just happens to be you on that particular week, and that's what the network chose to be best for them to make money, of which you ultimately benefit from.
I agree. Since you mentioned Oklahoma, I figured I would ask.
That's my thought. I get it. You can internally say, oh, geez, we would like to play this prime time and we can do X, Y, and Z, and it's better for our team and our program and tailgating and rivalry or whatever. Sure, everybody wants to play at 8 o'clock at night, but that's not the deal. The Pac-12 extended itself this past season, and I believe it's going to continue into this season. Now, they're not going to expect any one individual team to do it, I believe, more than once. But with COVID being what it was, and we didn't think that the Pac-12 was going to play football, and they were the last ones on the field, they took their best matchup of week one, Arizona State, USC, and said, those boys are going to play at 9 a.m. in the morning. And for a football player, it's one thing to say, get out of bed and be ready to be, running errands at 9 in the morning. It's another thing to say, run a 4.3 at 9 in the morning and run into these individuals on the others and be ready to play football at a high level. And again,
that's 9 o'clock West Coast time, so noon Eastern in that window. Because I know people are like, it wasn't 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock for them, noon for us on this coast. But I mean, they were doing that. So,
and the coaches were basically saying this requires that we're going to be up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Team meal at 5:30. Go to the stadium by 6:30. Early outs, walkthroughs, meetings. Back into the locker room at 8:15 or whatever. Hey Jay.
Ashley, appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Here we go, Cam. If you could go back 3 years, get one player that Miami missed on in each recruiting cycle 2020, 19, and 18, who would that player be? And what kind of difference do you think that individual would make to the team and program?
All right, hold on one second. Come on, internet.
While Cam's looking for that, voiceofcollegefootball.com. Go check it out. For right now, it's just a link to our team channels, but we're going to build it out through the summer, fantasy football, prediction contests, all that sort of stuff. Voiceofcollegefootball.com. Go to the top of the screen, register for free.
All right, I'm ready. In the 2019 recruiting class, I want offensive tackle Evan Neal from IMG Academy, who went to Alabama. Yes, he would have been left tackle here. He would not have moved into guard. Yes, there's a 5-star. Behind him, you could say Jaden Hazelwood, who came to Paradise Camp, put on a show for the little bit before he hung up the cleats in the middle of. He took his cleats off, put his cleats back on, ran another couple drills, and then he was done for the day. And then there was Darnell Wright from West Virginia, who kept having Miami at the top of his recruiting. AJ, quit texting me. I'm trying to ask you a question, bro. Yeah, I would say, Darnell Wright, because AJ texted me, had Miami in his top 5 the whole way through. Never visited. And that was the guy I was like, unless he comes to campus twice, unofficial and official, miss me. And again, I've always said I like to just have either myself or whoever the recruiting writer is ask an open-ended, which teams are you into? Not, directing, hey, I'm from Gold and Blue Illustrated talking about Notre Dame. Tell me about da-da-da. Every time, even if directly asked about another team, Darnell Wright kept mentioning Miami. 5-star tackle went to Tennessee. So between those three, those are 3 5-stars. Evan Neal, who's my pick, Jaden Hazelwood, and Darnell Wright. There's probably somebody on the defensive side of the ball, but nah, especially with 2 5-star offensive linemen, it has to be one of those guys. In 2020, nope, not running back. Not for sure, not them. Wide receiver. I mean, Jermaine Burton was probably Marcus Rosemead, who went to Georgia. So too did the Burton kid, but he was previously committed to Miami. No, you just had an offer that was not really anything serious. Maybe a Marcus Dumerville from Aquinas who went to LSU. That could be one. Sorry, I'm just going down the rest of this list. No, Smalls was cool, but then he moved to defensive end, and that's not because when he was a linebacker, that was the dude who was really the dude. But if he's playing defensive end and not linebacker, that misses or mitigates his impact, in my opinion. Jalen Carter from Apopka, defensive tackle who went to Georgia. That's the pick in 2021. Was this 2021? I'm scrolling back up. Sorry. In 2020. Yeah, Jalen Carter, because he was a guy who was high on Miami early, and then Miami started to kind of like slow play him at 6'5", 280 at the time. He was like 6'5", 310 now. Saw him in a camp, and he was just, yeah, that was the dude. Him or Tim Smith, who ended up going to Alabama, even though Timothy Smith, I don't think, actually was that dude like that. But a big defensive tackle at the point of attack would have been great. 2021. God, of course, AJ would ask a 17-part essay question. You can maybe say Christian Leary from Orlando Edgewater, but then we ended up getting Brashard Smith, who was a reasonable replacement there at that position. Nobody at tight end because we got good tight ends last cycle. I mean, maybe Tristan Lee, 5-star offensive tackle who went to Clemson. Maybe that's a guy that you could say to be the pick there. Yeah, Tristan Lee or Jason Marshall, who ended up going to Florida. I would say one of those two would probably be the guy, just because obviously a 5-star cornerback, especially from the local area, you would like to have, and then a 5-star offensive lineman. And again, over the course of 3 years, I think I mentioned 4 or 5 or 6 highly rated offensive linemen. So you can see where my brain is at. That would be probably. So I did 19, 20, and 21. If I was going all the way back to 2018, so I'm sure that I answered the question as you asked it in 17 parts. Ashley. Can I say Trevor Lawrence in 2018 because we offered him as a high school sophomore? Can I say that? I mean, he wasn't reasonably going to come here, but his team was the Hurricanes from Cartersville, Georgia. They're purple and white. And I remember when we offered him, and I went and I looked at the film and I tweeted it, my reactions. I stopped. There's only one other time that I've had or seen the kind of reaction that I had to Trevor Lawrence's sophomore film, which is 3 plays in, just laughter, and like, this kid is stupid good. I hope he comes here and whatever happens. When I worked at Interlochen Arts Camp, band camp in northern Michigan outside of Traverse City, there was a trumpet player from Italy in the high school boys division where I worked. His name was Julian Summerholder. I'll never forget it. He played for so there's a concerto competition, which is like a long form thing. It shows virtuosity on any instrument. And then you have like the orchestra behind you while this one person up front shows their virtuosic skill. That's what a concerto is, if you've ever listened to any kind of classical music, right? So like Vivaldi, Four Seasons, the violin player is going off on a Stradivarius because Vivaldi played violin. And he's like, I need to be able to show you everything I can do on this instrument, which not anybody else can do because I'm a virtuoso. Summerholder played this piece for concertos. Threnna and Dance by Alfred Dessinklos, if I believe. And I think it was movement 3. And it was so stupid. As he's changing these ranges and he's doing these triple tonguing, like the technical things he was doing on the trumpet was so dumb. The judges, who are professional trumpet players, when he comes up and they open the music to follow along and take their notes, they go, this is unplayable. This is unplayable. 10 measures in, and I'm sitting behind the judges as we're going. 10 measures in, they close their music and just say, I'm just going to sit back and take in this performance. And honestly, I'm going to go to this 16-year-old for some tips on how to play my trumpet as a 40-year veteran on this instrument. That's how virtuosic Julian Summerholder is on trumpet. That's the only other time I've had or seen from that professionally in that industry on that instrument, the reaction I had watching Trevor Lawrence's film. It was just dumb. Like, there's nothing you can say. Just sign me up. I hope he comes to my team. Otherwise, he's going to beat us to sleep.
Yeah. So as you're going through that practice of what you were just asked by Ashley, you're obviously matching up the team's needs with the great talent and finding the best matchups that would help the Canes throughout the years. I'm just going to the top of the board and saying, okay, who are the great talents and have they panned out? Of course, some of them, depending on how many years we've been able to see them, some have been busts and other ones have pulled through. So you wouldn't want Bryce Young for at least a season or 2.
I mean, we got De'Aaron King, and that kind of mitigates that. But, I mean, looking back on 18, Jackson Carman from Ohio who went to Clemson, he's a guy. Nick Petit-Frere who went to O State from Berkeley Prep in Tampa, he was a guy.
Yeah, you're targeting the offensive line, obviously, but also the linebacker position's been somewhat shaky, and you really loved, I remember at the time, as everybody else did, Justin Flo.
Yeah, and also in 2018, there was Terrace Marshall, who went to LSU. Yeah, that's another one. But yeah, no, I overlooked Flo. Flo would have been a good one. And I know that he tore his ACL He's going to be a monster this year. Have you seen it? Like, there's been clips of him on social media from some of their spring stuff. He's a creative player. No, that's a real good call. Justin Flo would have to be on that list, and probably at the top of that list for, what was that, 19?
He was 20.
He was 20 because he was a freshman. Like, yeah, Justin Flo would have to be on that list. That's a really good call out.
Good stuff, Ashley. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. We've got Ray asking, and need to track the time here. Ray is asking, so many safeties and still recruiting the position. Who can legit play corner, and how, basically out of the safety group, who can possibly change over to corner and handle it?
Well, I believe that we've already switched Jalen Harrell to cornerback. 4-star safety from Hialeah Champagnat in the 2019 class, or 20 class, excuse me. So that's one guy that they're trying it with. You know, he's 6'2", probably 190, 200 pounds probably by now. And he's looking to, or Miami's looking to see if they can catch lightning in a bottle there. The easy answer for me is one that I don't want to see change, is Avante Williams, just because of his athleticism and speed. You know what I mean? Like, he's the guy who, if you needed recovery speed, if you needed those, things like that, he has fluid enough hips. He can cover from the inside as a safety already. I don't know about, if you're having him in, in-phase coverage every single snap. But yeah, other than Jalen Harrell, who's already trying that change, or Miami's trying that change with him, my answer would be Avante Williams. And I hope that does not happen.
Got the Wholesome One, who we just wrapped up with a couple hours ago, who is throwing this out for Cam. He's asked me this question, and I took a certain viewpoint toward what I would like to see. So the Wholesome One is asking Cam, 4 out-of-conference matchups that you would like to see Miami play.
This year or ever?
I guess they have to be from each of the 4 other major. Well, no, he went. Okay, I thought he was going 1 each, but he didn't. So just 4 teams out there, non-conference.
I've been trying to find the link to this. I swore I wrote this article years ago, where I put my top 5 most wanted non-conference games. For me, number 1 is Michigan. I'm from there. My uncle went there. I have other friends and family went there. I've seen a ton of games at the Big House. I grew up as a Michigan fan. I obviously completely changed my allegiance when I came to Miami. I bleed orange and green now. But for me, the team of my youth and the team of my choosing together, Miami and Michigan. And I was 7 in '88. So I really wasn't in on that game, the Cleveland Gary fumble or whatever. Well, no, that was Notre Dame, but still, they played the same year. So I was
the same score.
It was the same score, right?
They were both 31-30. Yeah.
Yeah. So same season, I was getting into things. I was more of a Tigers fan because I started first as a baseball fan of Pistons. And I was coming around into football. That wasn't my number 1 sport then, so I missed that one, even though I was alive for it. So I would like to see Miami and Michigan. That would be my far and away personal number 1. Number 2, at UCLA in the Rose Bowl.
Because of the setting.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, I mean, we could do UCLA or USC in Memorial Stadium or whatever, but no, I mean, yeah,
at the Coliseum.
USC at the Coliseum. USC at the Coliseum. But my boy Joe went to college with me, and he was the band captain. His senior year, because he was a year in front of me, but got to march in that Rose Bowl parade when we won the national championship because he was with the band, and we went out, and he was just like, it's the most incredible setting. And this is from somebody who's, been to Augusta to watch the Masters as a fan a couple times. And he's like, yeah, no, the grass at Pasadena is just even more than the Masters, manicured lawns, which took me by storm. But I mean, if I could get USC in the Rose Bowl, so kind of like, that whole, like the premium super combo of the better team, or the better historical team and the better venue, I would take that. But I would, USC in LA Memorial Stadium, I would take as well. So it'd be one, that would be 2, 3, Texas, just because the name brand, I would love to see that. And of course, everybody knows about that Cotton Bowl. But again, wasn't a big football fan, wasn't a big Miami fan. Then I missed that. I've relived it. I've seen it. On you can find it on YouTube. Obviously they talk about it on the U. I know the whole story. Yeah. But having been able to be there would have been different. So Texas would be my 3. Number 4. I'm petty. Florida International University, because I want to blow them out. I want them off the. 93-2. I just need them because they still chirp. It did happen. Fine. They have not won a game since that day. Put them on the schedule. Beat them bloody. Take the helmets off like Brandon Merriweather and beat them with the helmet too. All that. FIU would be my 4. And realistically, would I choose them? No, I would rather choose whomever, a team with some value to the schedule. But F that noise, FIU, because I want to beat them. And I want to do it like we did to UF in the Sugar Bowl in 2000. Beat them on Bourbon Street and then beat them in the bowl game. With Alex Brown with the knot on his eye looking like this because he tried it and got whooped. That's what I want with FIU. We can meet on Cayocho. We can line it up, Sharks and Jets style. Shout out to West Side Story. You know what I mean? Beat them in the street, go down to wherever they want and beat them there again. Those are my 4.
See, the Alabama-Miami matchup in some ways does not intrigue me, nor does it. Let me state this the right way. I want to see great players and great teams and great traditions on the field regardless. So it fits that narrative. But I would rather see Miami play some teams that they are have the probability of being more competitive with. I want to see them play teams on their level. So even though most people, when they're posed this question, then they just spit out Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, whatever. They just want to see the best teams. Now, if Miami goes out there and let's say Alabama turns out to be just as good, roughly as good this year as they've been, and let's say Miami plays a really competitive game, that's going to show me something, and I'm going to be able to take value from that game to say, wow, even though Miami lost the game, it was 38-27, really good game. As opposed to what I saw against Clemson last year, where I pretty much just took away from it, okay, they're not ready for Clemson yet. I'm waiting for the North Carolina game now. That was my thought. I want to see Miami play high brand teams, but teams that, and I listed 2 of the teams that you did, Texas and USC, for those exact measures, that they're basically on the same plane right now on the field. And then they're also got the name recognition and the brand.
Absolutely.
The Michigan, a lot of people would discard Michigan, and I think they're missing on Michigan for this. This 2020 season where they went 2-4 in 6 games, I think has been blown out of proportion. Now they could continue down that slide. I'm not saying that they won't. And I know that there's some dysfunction within the program right now, but this is still a top 10 roster. And this is the first bad season that they had. And again, it was a half a season. They were just going 9-3 2 years ago. So like people are talking about, and you can imagine the kind of traffic I get with Michigan football, that it's constant about that they're just suddenly they're just awful. They're Rutgers. That's how they're talked about, not just by Ohio State fans, by almost everybody.
Well, the thing about it is, it's Michigan. You have the famous winged helmet. You got 2 jersey combinations, blue over gold or white over gold. That's it. And, you're the leaders and best. You're the all-time winningest program, and you're still held to that standard, whether that's accurate to today or not. You know what I mean? And, people of our age, hold Michigan in that esteem. And there's going to be people who are very close to Michigan who are thinking, okay, if they're not going to a championship game, whether that's conference or national, or the Rose Bowl, which you're going to get by winning the conference, which is still a high, profile kind of a thing for them, then you're trash. And I think that's maybe just adding in a little bit of today's sensibilities of, if you're not number one, then it's trash. And I get that we want to win and everything, but Miami still had a good season last year at 8-3. It was not great. We lost 2 very, very big games. We lost another game we probably shouldn't have lost, but you know what I mean? There was that being the bowl game, but it was more positive than negative. So I think that, sometimes people do go overboard by saying that, but I think that people maybe are missing it on Michigan. Plus the fact I'm from Michigan and I was a Michigan fan growing up. So maybe I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
All right. One question, and then we'll acknowledge a super chat. Gage is asking, hey, Cam, I saw a stat where Cam Harris averaged 5.9 yards per carry against 8-man fronts. What does this say to Lashley's play calling that we weren't able to take advantage?
I need much more context.
Yeah.
Than that. What is the usage rate on that? What are the numbers? There's so much more. This is where we're twisting a stat a little bit, I think, and I need to see it untwisted. I need to see what was the number of carries, how many times did this happen, what were the down and distances, there's so many more things to that. But if he did, in sometimes get Falconer X, Hawaii at Hawaii, and I'm going, that would be a great non-conference game. Damn. Just for the trip component.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm taking 2 weeks off from the secret day job. That'll be the Saturday of the middle of my vacation out there and everything. Oh, absolutely. I would 100%. But I don't know the context of that 5.9 against 8-man fronts. Was it 10 carries for 59? Was it 5 carries for, 27, or whatever? 29 and a half, actually, if you're, doing the math at home. What game, what time, there's so many other things that go with that. So to me, that's half a question, and if my Twitter is at Underwood Sports, at me with wherever you saw that, quote me the tweet or send me the thing, because I do look at all those, well, not all of those, but the things that people engage me with, so I can get more context, because more context is needed to accurately and effectively comment on it.
The other context there, in addition, because we are talking about a limited number of carries, I'm sure it's greatly sized down, because there's not a whole lot of 8-man fronts. So he could have even gone. He could have gone that 5 carries for 27 yards, or it would be 29 yards. Yes. And one of the carries could have been a 27-yarder, and the other 4 were -2. Or
right.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the other thing. What were the carries? The average is one thing, and that's where, again, we're having fun with numbers. You can average 5 yards a carry on 4 carries. But if you have 1 carry for 20 and 3 carries for 0, is that really 5 yards a carry? On math, it's not 5 yards every time you got the ball. You know what I mean? So again, this is where, there's more context needed to the statistics. And things like the sample size, the usage rate on those things, the context and everything. Was it 3rd and 33 and we decided to run a draw and we get past, the the first 5 guys, and then the linebacker gets him for a 6-yard gain, but it's still 4th and 27 because it was, like I said, like there's so much more to that and everything. So if it was, I'm not even going to go down the if it was. There's so much more context needed, and with that context would come clarity. So if you have that information, if you want to send that over or email it to me, stateoftheublog@gmail.com. And I can look at it, maybe there's some information to be gleaned, but there's much more information and surrounding that 5.9 carries versus against 8-man fronts. All these things that Mark and I have mentioned and more are the context or contextual items that would be needed to appropriately and effectively discuss that.
Opponent, add that as well.
Well, and that's the other thing. Yeah.
Yeah, those certain friends who don't know I'm still on live. All right, King 305, thank you so much for the super sticker. So let me clarify this before Cam says goodbye and lets us know what's on State of the U if he would like to do such. We appreciate your super chat contributions. Also understand that you can contribute, whether that be in general to the channel or to this specific show through Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App. You can just look up Mark Rogers TV. But if you do so and you want to earmark that for this show, just put Cam or Miami. Cam would be great. Just put that in there as well, so I know where to distribute those contributions. But keep that in mind. There's just a certain aspect of that is better for everyone in regards to directly contributing to the show and to the channel. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, Mark Rogers TV. It's easy to find. All right, Cam. Anything else tonight?
Yeah. No. Yes, the thing I said at the very, very top. People were asking me about cornerbacks and would the 4 cornerback class be great of the cornerbacks that they listed last week. Jay Allen is Jordan Allen from Louisiana, not the Alfonso Allen from Hollandale kid, a different kid who plays corner, 4-star, high 4-star caliber recruit, along with Kamari Rogers, along with, I forget the rest of the list. It was Jordan. It was Jordan Allen, Kamari Rogers, Jacoby Spells, and I forget his name, but the other kid who goes to Bishop Verreau High School in Fort Myers, same high school where Malik Curtis just came from. And I couldn't remember his name, and I said erroneously that it was Alfonso Allen. It was not. It's Jordan Allen, the cornerback recruit, who was being mentioned last week. And again, I stand by what I said. If I can get all 4 of those dudes in the class with the rest of a Miami caliber class, sign me up right now. Like, yeah, absolutely. But I know that people sometimes hear the names that I say and everything, and then they go look them up. So the name is Jordan Allen for the cornerback from last week's discussion that whose first name I could not remember. And I usually pride myself. Well, I do pride myself on those kind of things. So I do apologize. It took me a week, but I wanted to be sure that I got back to you guys about that. Past that, not just about to kick up the summer content over State of the U. We already got a bunch of good stuff. Got Craig T. Smith's first 2 of his 10 most wanted non-conference matchups for the future. So you can go look those up. We have Roman coming up with his 3rd installment of I'd Steal That, looking at the offensive schemes around football and finding and identifying schemes that he would love to steal to augment and improve Miami's offense moving forward. So we have those things. We got player profiles, position previews, game previews, and more. Hopping back in there with recruiting. Obviously, I had a welcome to the U yesterday. Going to set the stage for when Outside opens up on June 1st for the cookouts and things like that in the coming days. All that. JP had his comparisons for the 2021 signees to Hurricanes of years past. He's working on another piece, well, a couple pieces right now. So, one every so often for him. Marshall's been in there with just a ton of content because he's a content mill and loves to talk Canes and does a great job about it. So a bunch from him and more. So just be sure that you come over and fan with us all the way through the summer because kickoff on September 4th is 100 days from today, my friends. So 100 days and 100 nights until Miami versus Alabama. And along the way, we got State of the U with you. So Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports. And we got Top Chef tonight. Restaurant Wars last week was transformational. It was the best Restaurant Wars ever in the history of Top Chef. I simultaneously hope that they run that chef's table concept back in the future for another challenge. And I, at the same time, hope that they never do it again, because no team is ever going to come close to what Coco-san did last week. And if you don't know, you need to go watch it. It was like, I honestly, it was so great. Watching it, I got emotional. Like, I had to take a minute, because it was that kind of performance. It was that kind of a thing. It was incredible by them. So I got that coming up later tonight. And then the website is at stateoftheu.com. So we're always open 24/7, 365. Please come fan with us, and we appreciate it.